I'll just repeat those 2 points. The 2 points about the super consciousness. How do we know that we have touched the super consciousness? By the acronym NICE. We feel newness, we feel inspired, we develop clarity, and we develop increased energy. These 4 points actually indicate that you have actually touched the realm of super consciousness during the meditation. Secondly, how to increase the access to super consciousness? By doing the point A meditation and point B cleaning. That gives us increased access to the growth of the super consciousness in our system. Now, the third point, moving on, what does Daji say about setting time limit? He says that there should not be any artificial time limit in advance. We should not set an agenda. We should not have any expectation or any conditions. But we should sit in meditation with a state of wonder and unknowingness. Babaji writes about it as wonder and curiosity. If we set the time limit, we will meditate on the time on limitation instead of meditating, which is endless, on the endless. We will be constantly aware that we have to stand up in a few minutes. So we will not be able to focus on where we have to focus, the effortless focus in meditation. The third issue is that once you put a time limit, you are focusing on the quantity of meditation rather than the quality. If there is no quality, what's the point of having a quantity? Ultimately, he gives an answer that Babaji used to recommend 1 hour meditation, which would make us feel complete. But since a lot of people complained even during his times, he reduced it to half an hour when he was around. But then during Charity's time, it was again made 1 hour. So it kind of keeps changing depending on the needs of the times. The next question again, this is an examination question. What makes the meditation complete? Meditation is complete when we hit a satisfactory depth of consciousness. Please underline this, the satisfactory depth of consciousness. So that is when we feel that the meditation is complete. Okay. So moving forward, continuing with the same question, what does Daji say about achieving the depth of consciousness in meditation? Daji quotes Babuji saying that Babuji could plunge into the depth of the meditation in a minute or two. However, generally people do take some time to go to certain depth. As we regularly practice meditation, going to a certain depth of meditation becomes easier and easier. Okay. If it doesn't happen today, fine, try again tomorrow and after a break of 15 minutes. Otherwise, it can have a negative impact. So, you should not try too much that you are going to prolong the meditation beyond an hour. Don't try to do that. Not necessary. So, the maximum we would advise to meditate in our system is for an hour, not more than that. Now, if you want to try after that, please give a gap of around 10-15 minutes. After that, you can again try to go into meditation. Okay. Why is the depth that one can go into different for everyone? So that is now giving you certain factors which impact the depth of the meditation. It depends on the orientation of the awareness and the flexibility of your consciousness. So this is one of the factors. So many people are not aware during the meditation. Now, if you are not aware during the meditation, how will you know what depth you went into? You will not know. So that's one of the things that we need to keep in mind, the awareness of what is happening during the meditation. Secondly, flexibility of consciousness. Now, this is a very, very broad concept, the flexibility of consciousness. We will talk about it later on, but keep this in mind. This is one of the factors that will actually impact the depth of the meditation. Normally, attention is unidirectional. In meditation, the attention moves inwards and upwards, and in daily activities, the attention moves outwards and downwards, away from the centers, flowing through the senses. If consciousness is nimble and flexible, it can easily switch directions. So we can develop that by daily practice and with the help of transmission. So when Daji is talking about the flexibility of consciousness, he is talking about one perspective of flexibility of consciousness. What is that perspective? Normally, the attention flows outwards or inwards. It is unidirectional. In meditation and sleep, it flows inwards. In normal day-to-day activities, it flows outwards. But when we have flexibility of consciousness, it can change directions pretty easily. It can switch directions easily. Now, how do we develop that ability to switch directions of the attention? By doing daily sadhana and with the help of the transmission. Okay. The page number given is from the new book. So please mark it. It is from the new book, not the older book. Okay. Now, most of the times we see Lord Buddha meditating in most of the postures or the portraits. So the question is asked, is meditating continuously the goal like how Lord Buddha is portrayed, as if they were meditating all the time? That's what we had in, what do you say, the thought in the mind. When we were younger, when we looked at the people meditating, we always thought that these people are meditating all the time. And that's also kind of, what do you say, mm, imprinted on our mind because we tend to read in the Puranas that many of these rishis meditated for thousands of years. So these two things give this notion to us that you tend to meditate continuously. But as a matter of fact, nobody actually meditated continuously. So Daji says no. The goal of the meditation is to make meditation redundant and be established in a permanent state of meditation where life becomes meditation, a dynamic and ongoing one. So you transcend the need to meditate because you are permanently established in the state of meditation, which is a very dynamic state and an ongoing state. Illumined individuals do not sit in continuous meditation. They are active and engaged with life. Please underline this. Illumined individuals are not sitting in meditation all the time. They are very active and they are engaged in life. Many people think that when you are in meditation, all that you do is just go to one corner, close your eyes, and then sit for meditation, and that's it. That's life. And that is not what it is, especially not so in Sahajman. We are a very active participant in our life. Okay? And we are engaged with life. Their permanent contact with the source provides them with an inner silence that pervades any outside noise. So, we are effortfully focusing our attention outwards while being effortlessly focused inwards. That is Sahaj Marg. We are effortfully paying our attention to outward activity while at the same time being effortlessly focusing inward. Both are happening simultaneously. Okay. Initially, we think that it's one or the other. But as Daji is now spoken about in the second point, their permanent contact with the source provides them an experience of inner silence that pervades the surrounding noise. So they are still involved in the hustle bustle of life, but that hustle bustle of life is experienced through the medium of inner silence. So they are experiencing both the inner silence and the outer hustle bustle of life. Evolved individuals like Buddha are portrayed in the meditative pose as a symbol. If we still require daily routine of meditation after 20-30 years, something must be wrong with your approach. This Daji has said quite a few times that you should be able to manage your things. Even if you read 1944 Whispers, Lalaji says to quite a few abhyasis, now they don't need to meditate. They have reached a stage where meditation as an activity is unnecessary. They can just do the mission work and they'll continue to progress. There is no need for them to sit in the routine of meditation. So, in other words, we have to keep this point in mind that meditation as an activity also has an end. Cleaning as an activity or as a sadhana also has an end. Prayer as an activity or as a sadhana tool also has an end. Okay, so we need to keep that in mind. Okay. Now, let's go to the next slide now. Now, when we talk about going towards the inner source, one of the terms that we commonly hear in many of the spiritual books and even in the Upanishads many times is the word Brahman. Now, Lalaji has elaborated about Brahman and Atman in his book Truth Eternal. And there's a lot of various definitions and expansions of the meaning of Atman and Brahman in many of the Upanishads as well. What is Brahman? Traditionally, Brahman is akin to God. That's what most of the Upanishads talk about. That it's equivalent to God. It was thought to be the ultimate reality, the supreme being. But Brahman is not the ultimate. Please underline this. Brahman is derived from two Sanskrit words, roots, Bruhman. Bruh means expansion, and man means thinking or contemplation. So Brahman literally means that which expands and contemplates. So that's the definition of Brahman. That which expands and contemplates. What is Atman? Atman literally means that which moves and thinks. Ataha man. That is again, like you have the Bruhman, you have Ataha man. ATH is the first word, root Ataha. Man is again mind. So the one Ataha means movement. Man means thinking. So the one which moves and thinks is called as Atman. Again, if you just look at the definition, in Brahman there is expansion and in Atman there is movement, which means there is movement. In Atman there is a directional movement. In Brahman there is a overall expansion, but there is movement. And again, if you look at Man, Atman also has Man, Brahman also has Man. The difference is Atman thinks, Brahman contemplates. Now you might wonder what is the difference between thinking at an Atman level and contemplation at a Brahman level. Thinking is devoid of Viveka. So that is just routine thinking that happens at the level of the Atman. Brahman, the contemplation develops after we have developed clarity or Viveka. Post that, whatever we think, we call that as contemplation. So thinking is different, contemplation is different. So if you look at the definition between Atman and Brahman, both are very similar. The only distinction is that Brahman expands while Atman moves. They are similar because earlier people thought God must be like us, but greater. So if individual being moves, then God being greater must expand. For expansion is greater than mere movement. So this is what our ancestors thought about. Now Daji further expands and explains why Brahman is not the ultimate. Now Brahman is the state in which consciousness expands and contemplates. However, the ultimate is far beyond this. Now in Brahman, there is a change, there is movement, there is expansion and there is thinking, contemplation. But in the ultimate, which is changeless, there cannot be any expansion, contemplation, contraction, nothing. In ultimate, it is changeless, so there is no activity possible. So when people take Brahman as the highest state to achieve, that is warning, as suggested by Babuji also, that we have to go beyond Brahman. And that which is beyond Brahman is called as Par Brahman, which is also another state in our journey. So the meditative state keeps on evolving. It grows finer and subtler until it dissolves into the ultimate state. That is what happens. Okay. Okay. So I'll just pause here for a moment. Any questions we'll take before we go to the next half of the presentation. We have finished about half of the presentation. These are all common questions for you. All the things that we have actually put in the slides today are pretty common questions for you in the examination. What is the difference between Atman and Brahman? Please explain. What is the meaning of Brahman? Please explain. All these things. What is beyond Brahman? That is also a question, examination question. So many of these things are pretty much, is Brahman the highest or the ultimate? That's also another question. So there are a lot of things which can actually come about from this part of the book, because they are all very simple but delicate points. Okay, Krishna Kumar, go ahead.
Hello, brother. So I was having this question when I went through that 9 pager in terms of deepening your practice, and you touched upon that point when talking about super consciousness. The doubt was uh, point point A. I see that the explanation is worldly uh, thoughts and uh, likes, dislikes, those settle. And then point B is on more on sexual uh, thoughts. But we clean point B, but I didn't understand, why we meditate on point A, because it also holds that, I mean, like the definition, it's like the grosser thing which settles. So why we meditate is the question.
I want you to go back today, look at the 9-page document, and actually look at the suggestion that we give when we do point A meditation. Brother,
Right. Yeah.
look at the suggestion that we give when we do the point A meditation. It's nothing to do with the worldly things or the likings or the dislikings.
Right,
Nothing of
right.
the kind.
Yeah. It is
So the
different.
suggestion that you give in point A is actually
Hmm.
helping you to go towards universality of consciousness. That's how it helps
Okay.
you in the development of the super consciousness.
Okay.
Okay. Point B cleaning also, there are two parts of point B cleaning if you look at it. The cleaning from the front of the chest is the first part, and then the view of the Atman coming uh, in the second part. Those are the two parts as far as point B cleaning is concerned. So, in
Right.
other words, the point B cleaning actually decreases the pull. What holds us here is the pull of the lower three chakras, which is the passionate or the sexual desires. The lower three chakras pull us into this realm of the Maya. So when the point B cleaning is done, that pull of the lower three chakras is actually decreased. In other words, the consciousness is given the freedom to rise above. It's almost like there's a balloon which is wanting to fly, but it's tied to the ground. So what we are doing is in point B cleaning, we are untying that knot. The balloon anyway has a natural tendency to fly up. Now the consciousness has that ability to fly up once you do the point B cleaning. So don't confuse between what is the function of point A versus how do we do point A meditation. There are two separate things.
Okay.
That's where your confusion is.
Hmm.
Go back and look at the suggestion and then decide how does it work as far as universality of consciousness taking you towards super consciousness is concerned.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
Look through the
Thanks.
9-page document, and then if you still have any queries, you can bring it up to the next session.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
Dr. Pallavi,
Yeah, hello, brother. Namaste.
namaste.
Yeah, brother, my question is that we are talking about Brahman and Atman. So it's the part of super consciousness or the subconsciousness, like, like, uh, um,
Don't confuse between Atman and Brahman versus concept of consciousness and super consciousness.
so yeah, that means they all are same, or
No,
they all are going parallel, or they are the part of each other. Like what?
I just said don't confuse between these two concepts.
Okay, okay,
That's the first thing.
okay,
Atman and Brahman is looked at from one particular perspective.
Okay.
There you don't bring the perspective of the consciousness there as such. Because consciousness is universal.
Yes.
It pervades the Brahman also, it pervades the individual also, the Atman also. Since the consciousness is universal, it pervades the Brahman, it pervades the Atman also. Okay?
Okay.
For you
Okay.
to develop a bit of clarity in this particular point, again, I would request you to go back to Truth Eternal
Okay.
and read about the three bodies of the Atman and the three bodies of the Brahman. So
Okay.
all individuals have said to have three bodies,
Yeah.
and Brahman is also said to have three bodies.
Okay.
So the homework for you is the three bodies are the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body.
Causal body. Yeah.
Now, at an individual level, these three bodies are given three names.
Okay.
So I want you to go back and do this homework and bring that homework answer next time.
Okay.
So that will make sure that you are referring the truth eternal and coming back with the answer for the benefit of all.
Okay. Okay, brother.
Brahman also has three bodies, which also has three different names.
Okay.
So in other words, since both of the entities have got three bodies, we have to go beyond all these three bodies of the individual and of the Brahman in order to reach the reality.
Okay.
Okay. So just keep that in mind. That is the perspective to keep in mind.
Okay.
Consciousness per se pervades the Brahman also, pervades the individual also, the Atman also.
Okay.
Okay.
Means
As
these two
for
are
the time,
different from the consciousness.
exactly. It is from a different perspective that they are describing.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
So
you, brother.
you will continue to evolve. Good to see that you are now comparing and contrasting some of the concepts, but you will gradually get more and more clarity on it. Not to worry. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Prachi Joshi.
Namaste, brother.
Namaste.
Brother, my question is from the meditation chapter and heartfulness way, page number 72 and 73.
You've gone back all the way.
Okay. So there is this statement written here. At such moments, nature is supposed to attain a state of balance. By meditating during these period of balance, we absorb that balance into ourselves. So, brother, I want to understand more about how I mean how this balance is happening. Like, what kind of balance is this which we are absorbing?
You can say that there is a balance between the heat and the cold element. That's only at a very grosser level. That is not what the balance we are talking about. Balance is in tune with the kind of balance which was there at the start of creation. If you say what was there before creation, everything was in perfect balance. So what Daji and Babaji is talking about at the time of junctions or the sandhis or the sandhyas is that that original balance is now actually being experienced or exhibited for some time being during the sandhyas. So when we meditate during those times, we get a glimpse or we get the benefit of that particular balance which was there at the before the creation started. So that is the balance that they're talking about. It is not something that we can actually intellectually conceptualize. It's something more which is more experienceable because when we do regular meditation in the Sandhya times, we actually develop more and more balance in the way that we actually interact with this particular world. Now, remember one thing, balance is a word that has a huge meaning. Now, balance between what? Balance between the five senses and the mind, balance between the physical body and the subtle body, balance between the subtle body and the causal body, balance between all the three bodies, balance between all the five koshas, balance between the heart and the mind. There are multiple things actually. So, balance as a concept is one thing that we actually develop as we grow in meditation. Now, the concept becomes more and more broader as we grow in meditation. So balance between the individual and the family that you live with, balance between the Abhyasi and the rest of the Abhyasis who come to the center or the subcenter, balance between the Abhyasi and the people who come to the a major ashram, balance between the individual and the functionaries, Abhyasi and the functionaries, balance between the interaction between the Abhyasi and the preceptor. So there is a whole gamut. There is nothing that balance does not touch actually. That is what we are developing. So balance and moderation are two things which continuously evolve as we go towards the center. Now, in the center, we are establishing a state of absolute moderation and absolute balance. That is what happens at the center. So, balance, you have to look at it in a qualitative way, conceptually, rather than being more concrete in your approach of balance. That's what we would suggest you to look at. It's a qualitative thing rather than a quantitative thing. Now, if we were to take the temperature, so the night is cool and the day is still kind of not hot. So these two things, when they come, the heat is like at a level, at a moderation or at a balance level. Now that will be a very, very concrete conceptualization. Although we do talk about the heat element, because the heat element is one of the things that is absolutely necessary for our spiritual progression, but that is not what balance is meant here. Balance is meant in the context of what was there before the creation. What was there before the creation? Perfect balance was there. That is the balance that we get a glimpse of at the sandhyas. Now, when we meditate at those sandhyas, we get the benefit of that particular balance. Although, for our own conceptualization, we might find it very difficult to understand how does this balance actually manifest for us in our life. That's very similar to one of the messages I read, the Whispers message. That
Okay.
it is so subtle that it's very difficult or complicated for the humans to conceptualize that at our level.
Okay.
But things do happen at that particular level, but the impact of that change at the subtle level will be felt at the grosser level later on. So, in other words, the balance is nothing, although we talk about the balance between the cool and the heat element, that's only one grosser conception. Balance is about trying to relate to that state which was there before creation and taking the help of that to go back to the state before creation, towards the center. That is what we are doing. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Sure, brother. Yeah, thank you.
Sandhya Rani?
Yeah, Pritha. My question is, during reading the whispers, what kind of mindset we have to maintain? Because this may be a basic question, but I would like to learn how to read whispers.
Whisper should be read like a whisper in the heart. That's the answer. Ideally, the whisper should be displayed and you should just read it. But many times people read it from different levels or states of mind. So it should be read in a very soft manner with lot of pauses for us to reflect on what we are reading. That's how the whisper should be read. Generally, whispers are at a finer levels of vibrations. If you are sensitive, you will catch the fact that whisper is at a finer level of vibration compared to many of the literature that you read. Okay, so one of the best ways to start meditation is read a whisper. Just ponder on it for 1 or 2 minutes and then gradually go into meditation. If you look at it, many of our sessions we start with whispers. Why do we start with whispers? Because we can actually make the Abhyasi who is actually listening to these sessions to go to finer states of consciousness by reading through the whispers and by pondering on the whispers. That is the reason why we start most of the sessions with a whisper. Okay, so that's how you should approach whispers. But of course, if you want to learn from whispers, but like I told you earlier on today, there are many hidden treasures in whispers. So if you can ponder over the whispers and then grasp those things, you will understand or grasp a lot of things about spirituality in essence, which
Okay.
might be of use going forward.
Thank you, brother.
Okay. Arun Kumar.
Brother, I want to ask regarding this samadhi is a conscious state, right? Then super conscious state is what? Yeah, behind that. Then one more question regarding this Atman and Brahman. In we observe, we watching the universe in common way. We see the number of quantities of Atman is increasing day by day, day by day. Means people's population is increasing with Atman inside. Why Atman quantities? Why increasing generally day by day? Brahman quantity is limited only, but Atman quantity is increasing. Why?
More and more Atman is coming down to earth to work on spiritual realm, spiritual journey. That's all it is.
But liberation happened. Atman, what they are again coming or they liberating, merging in the source?
Who told you that all the Atman which are coming is liberated souls?
Just I am asking, brother.
Most of the souls who come and take birth on earth are unliberated souls. Now, where were these souls before they come to earth? These souls were present in different realms of consciousness. So, when the time is appropriate, they come to a different realm of consciousness to help them evolve to the higher states. That's all that occurs. So, there is always a movement of Atman from different realms of consciousness. So at one particular realm, there will be one particular realm of consciousness where it might have a lot more souls than other realms. So it will keep changing. Okay. So remember that Atmans are present in multiple realms of consciousness. And depending on what is conducive for the spiritual journey, many souls might choose to come down at that time when the spiritual realm, the spiritual journey is very conducive. The time is very conducive for spiritual journey. So at that time, many souls choose to come and take birth on earth. That is what happens. Okay. So this will require conceptualization or understanding of the different realms of consciousness in which the souls can exist. So that we will discuss at some other point of time because it will kind of set track from where what we are discussing today. Okay. Vidya sister.
Mr. Brother, in page 145, the ultimate is changeless.
Correct.
So what does not change, brother?
Ultimate is changeless. What does not change means the answer you are only telling. Ultimate.
Okay, means at least when we reach that ultimate or when we become, what we really become, what will not change in us.
You experience that which is changeless. You experience that which is changeless. Now, that doesn't mean to say that your body will stop growing, your nails will stop growing, your hairs will stop growing, nothing of that kind.
Okay.
You will experience or hit that realm which is changeless. And then realize that it is this changeless state that is the basis for the entire creation which is changing.
Okay.
That is the realization that you will have. So that you will only realize when you hit that changeless realm.
Okay.
Till that time, everything appears to be changeful. Now, many times, what we perceive as change is in the context of relative change. One thing is changing in relation to another, but not in relation to something changeless. So, when you hit that which is changeless, which is permanent and changeless, that is called as reality. Okay, that is the definition of reality. What is reality? Reality is that which is
Changelessness.
permanent and changeless. That is the definition of reality. And when we are actually striving for spiritual journey, we are all striving to hit that reality only.
Okay, brother. Though I've not understood much, maybe in future I'll understand. I didn't understand much.
It is not something to be understood because it is something to
Experience.
be experienced.
Yes, yes.
It cannot be understood. It's something like you're asking definition of or describe the taste of a mango. So I may
Yes.
describe it in many words, but still until you taste it, you will not be able to catch it.
Okay, brother.
So it's an
Thank you.
experienceable thing rather than a definable thing. So for the sake of the satisfaction of the mind, reality is defined as permanent and unchanging. That is like satisfying the mind
Okay.
rather than the heart by experience.
Thank
Okay.
you, brother.
Sister Rima, we are not able to hear you. You have unmuted, but we are not able to hear. Some issue with your speaker, I think. Just check.
Check the mic.
We'll do one thing. We'll continue the session. You can come back later on. Just work out what is the issue. Okay. Okay. So let's continue now. How do we make the effects of meditation carry over? So in other words, we get different conditions in meditation, different effects of meditation. How do we actually take it further? The first step is to meditate because the meditation is the mother of meditative state. We achieve permanence in meditation through repeated meditations. So if you want to get meditative state faster, you have to meditate regularly, more frequently. With daily meditation, you steadily build that meditative condition brick by brick. Meditation by meditation, you build it. If you don't meditate frequently, that condition starts to wane. Now, that can be done by following this methodology. After meditation, open your eyes very gently. Then remain in meditation for a few minutes more, but with half opened eyes. Stay like this for a few minutes until you feel totally present in your surroundings. So basically, after the meditation, don't open your eyes immediately. Don't move immediately. Gently open your eyes, like you gently close the eyes, gently open your eyes, but not fully. It should be kept half open. Now, in that state of half open, you actually become aware of the things surrounding you. First, we should be even more slowly. The moment. Remain still, remain meditative. Anything jarring should be completely avoided. For example, you should not drink water immediately after meditation. So for 10 minutes, don't take anything orally because it can change the meditative state. Because meditative state is very, very delicate. The condition after the meditation is very delicate. So if you drink water also, it will change the condition. If you turn on the fan or turn off the fan, that also changes the condition because it's a very, very delicate and subtle state. So what you need to do is make sure that you refrain from drinking water immediately after meditation because water can change your condition. Now, what exactly happens when you keep your eyes half open and then gradually gel into your surroundings? During that time, the consciousness that you had during the meditation now merges into the normal waking state. In other words, you are bringing that meditative consciousness to gradually merge into the normal waking consciousness. By spending just a few minutes meditating with open eyes, your consciousness remains meditative as you adjust to the waking state. After a while, the two states coexist. So you can tap into the meditative state consciousness also, and you can tap into the waking state of consciousness also. They do both coexist together. You are inwardly absorbed and you are perfectly alert to your surroundings. That is one aspect in converting the act of meditation into the state of meditativeness. Again, this is an examination question. How do you convert meditation into meditative state? That's an examination question. Please keep it in mind. So when you do this exercise of keeping your eyes partly open and then gently gelling into the consciousness of the waking state, you are inwardly absorbed, but at the same time you are perfectly alert to your surroundings while being inwardly absorbed. This is one aspect of converting the meditation into a meditative state. How to achieve ownership of the condition given to us in meditation? The first step is to be aware of the condition. The best time to develop this awareness is immediately after the meditation. So you have to learn to observe your state of mind and the state of heart immediately after the meditation. That helps you to become aware of the condition. The second help that will come is through the journal, which can be an extremely useful tool as it makes you attentive to the condition. So the daily writing is very, very helpful. Thirdly, the more you are attentive, your awareness becomes more finely tuned and your sensitivity increases. In other words, make sure that you actually start taking regular, expanding your awareness, fine-tuning your awareness by increasing the attention so that your sensitivity increases. So 3 steps he is given. By being aware of your condition immediately after the meditation, by doing the diary writing, and thirdly, by being more attentive, your awareness becomes more finely tuned and your sensitivity increases. So 3 steps to achieve a ownership of the condition given to us in meditation. Now further elaboration on that step. The more awareness we have of the condition, the more we will be able to experience its depth and intensity. So for example, many people talk about lightness, many people talk about peacefulness, many people talk about calmness. Now, with each session of meditation, the quality of each of these parameters will be changing. Now, until unless we observe ourselves more closely with awareness, we will not be able to see the variations in the depth and intensity of these feelings. So the condition that is given to you at the end of meditation is like a seed. It starts in a very small way, gradually unfolds and expands both from within and becomes enlivened. How do you enliven the condition? By paying attention to the condition, you enliven the condition. So initially you become aware of the condition. Then by paying attention to it, you actually enliven the condition. Enlivening is adding energy to that condition so that it expands. When the condition is sufficiently enlivened, it peaks. It now takes a new turn. We start absorbing it. We imbibe it. So it starts becoming slowly a part of us. So now he's talking about AEIOU, becoming aware of the condition, enlivening the condition by paying attention. Then after that enlivening, it reaches a peak. After that, we start absorbing the particular condition and we make it part of us. As it becomes part of us, our thoughts, feelings, and actions start to reflect its particular characters. Now, this is very, very important. Now, you have to observe, is the condition that you had after the meditation able to influence your thoughts, actions, and behavior, feelings? The more we imbibe the condition, the less intense the condition becomes. The feeling starts to wane. Eventually, we stop feeling it altogether. We stop feeling it. If you examine yourself carefully, you will find that it is not gone. Instead of feeling it, you are now becoming it. The experience of any condition only proves that it has not yet become part of you. It is still foreign. When it truly becomes a part of you, you are unable to experience it at all. So now he's talking about the AEIOU. You will have a question on AEIOU on different components of the AEIOU. It could be there in the 9-page document. So please become thorough with that. You will definitely get questions in examination on AEIOU. But one thing that you have to notice in this is that after the AEIOU is done, the condition begins to wane. See, even if you don't do the AEIOU on the condition disappears pretty fast. Even if you do AEIOU on the condition eventually will disappear because initially The condition disappears if you don't do the AEOU because you have let go of a delicate condition. You are not actually doing or handling it properly, so you lose it. Suppose you handle it very well by developing AEIOU, working of the AEIOU on the condition. Even then the condition disappears from experience because now it becomes part of ourselves. As long as the condition is separate to us, we feel it separately. It has not yet become part of us. But when it becomes truly big part of us, we are unable to experience the condition. So please remember that. Most of the people think that they have to hold on to the condition. No, even if you hold on to the condition, it will only be there for some period of time. After that, it becomes part of you. Either way, in the end, you will lose the condition. In other words, when I say lose the condition, you will not experience the condition separately. In the first part, when you don't do the AIOU, you lose the condition pretty quickly. In the second part, when you do the AIOU, you still lose the condition in terms of experiencing the condition separately, but now it becomes part and parcel of yourself. That is what is going to happen to the condition after you have worked with AIOU on the condition. Okay. Again, continuing with the same question, how to achieve ownership of the condition given to us in meditation? You stay in the state of not feeling very much until your heart starts craving now something new. That craving is what triggers the new condition or the next condition. This entire process of enlivening, imbibing, and securing the condition must become your second nature. Unless our perception becomes continuously finer, these superfine conditions will elude us altogether. So, what is this dependent on? It is entirely dependent on we developing sensitivity towards the finer and finer states of our own existence and conditions. How can we make our perception more subtle? So Daji says it's like learning a new language. Gradually we pick it up. Only if we observe ourselves and pay keen attention to each condition as it comes. So, but we have to start this habit at the earliest because at the highest stages, the conditions are so subtle that it becomes almost impossible to perceive. If your inner senses have been progressively tuned over a course of your journey, you will be able to work with those superfine conditions. In other words, how to develop sensitivity or make our perception more subtle by observing ourselves and paying keen attention to the condition that we get. And by starting this process early. When you start this process pretty late in life, it takes a lot of challenge to be able to develop that sensitivity. But if you start at an early age, your mind is still resilient, your heart is also very receptive, it becomes very easy to actually reflect or express the conditions in words. Whatever you experience the condition in meditation, you can easily put it into words, provided you start pretty early. Because the mind is still very resilient and flexible when we are young. Likewise, the heart is also very flexible. The more older we grow, generally, we become less and less flexible. And that makes it much more harder because the mind is also more rigid as we grow older. So, with that rigidity of the mind and lack of flexibility at the heart, it becomes difficult to develop the vocabulary of expressing the experience of meditation. Often we get distracted in the hustle bustle of life and we might lose the condition. Can we get it back without meditating a second time? So Daji says you don't need to meditate second time. Just stop for a moment, close your eyes and reconnect with your heart. You should be able to get a condition that has been delivered to you during the meditation. Now that automatically recalls your condition, or you can consciously recall what that condition felt like. In other words, by remembering it, you recreate it. So that's the trick. You remember the condition again and you are recreating the condition. We can recreate it because with our morning meditation, we have almost forged the pathway. So you made a path to that realm of consciousness where the condition is. So the moment you try to connect again, the path is already open. The mind straight goes to that level of depth of subconsciousness where the condition is. Now that the path is established, you only need to follow. If you just refer to the heart, it comes, the condition comes. The more you meditate, the easier it becomes Because with each session of meditation, we go deeper and deeper into the subconscious. Okay, so that makes it easier to catch the condition at once, at any point of time, even after the meditation is over, during the course of the day. Okay, so I will stop here now. So, any questions we can take. So, the second part is mainly about how to acquire the condition, how to work with the condition, and how to utilize it for our benefit. So that is what the second part of the talk that we had today covers. So AEIOU is something very similar to eating and digesting. So when you eat the food, that's like acquiring the condition. You have eaten the food, now the food is there in the stomach. Then you add something to enliven it. The food does not get digested just like that. The food will only be digested only when you add digestive enzymes to it. In other words, you are enlivening the food. Okay. Thirdly, after the digestive juices have worked on the food, you actually break down the food. You digest the food and you start absorbing the food. Now that is imbibing the condition. Okay. Now what happens when you imbibe the condition? The food particles which are now absorbed into the bloodstream, it taken to different parts of the body. Likewise, when we start imbibing the condition, it spreads across all the koshas. Okay, that is what happens. Gradually, we start becoming one with that particular condition. But in that feeling of oneness, we are separate and the condition is still separate. In other words, we now say that the food that we have eaten now become parts of ourselves. It is still becoming one with our system. But that's not the end of the journey of the food. The story of the food ends when it actually gives rise to its effect. The effect of the food that you have eaten is in feeling that increased energy levels. Now that when you say that you can feel that energy levels, then you say that you have now become united with the condition. In other words, now you no longer feel the food or any other thing. You just feel the effects of the food. That's all. Now, if somebody were to ask you where is the food in the stomach or in the blood, it is not there. The food is now gone into the cells and is now doing what it's supposed to do, which is give you energy. That's exactly what happens with the condition. Now, once the food is digested fully and the cells have expended the energy, now the stomach will start craving again for the next round of food. Likewise, once you have digested the condition, imbibed the condition, and made it part of you and united with the condition, what happens is that the next dose, the heart now starts craving. So that sets the stage for the next condition to descend. Okay. So like the food actually gives us energy, the meditation condition, once it becomes part of us, is not only felt by us over a period of time, but once it becomes part of us in the last stage of union with the condition, the impact of that condition is now felt by others. Like the impact of the food that we eat is felt by others also when they see that there is increased energy levels in this person. Likewise, the condition once we become part of us in the united. Remember the difference between oneness and unity is that in the oneness, the condition is still separate from us. I am there, the condition is also there. That is oneness. You are becoming one with the condition. But eventually, when you become united with the condition, this separateness of the condition is now gone. That awareness of the condition is also gone. All that you see is the impact of the condition being felt by others. You no longer feel the condition, like you no longer feel the food, either in the stomach, nor in the blood, nor in the cell. The food is felt at three different levels: at the stomach, at the blood levels, and in the cell. Once it becomes converted into energy, you don't feel the food anywhere. Very similarly, we do the AE Okay. So once we become hungry again, we start eating the next dose of food. Likewise, once a particular condition has been fully kind of we have become united with that particular condition, it is no longer felt separately. Now the heart starts craving for the next set of condition to descend. That's how it works. It's a cycle. Okay. So Ananta, brother, go ahead.
Yes, brother. I've been trying to think about how to phrase this question, but this is about the condition, right? So often, when I take a sitting, at the end of the sitting, the preceptor would ask, right? How was it, right? Or they ask me a question, and I always struggle with, how should I answer that question? Okay. And you also talked about, like, you will ask, what did you observe? What did you feel? Okay. So I'm trying to relate, and I've usually answered like, I felt calm, or I felt relaxed, or I was restless or something. Sometimes I'll say things like, I felt like tied down, right? I couldn't move, right? Or some things I feel like maybe it is transmission. I'm not sure what it is, right? I could feel something in my legs or body, or right, something like that I share. Okay. And that's what I write in my diary. So this thing, like you asked, what did you observe? What did you feel? What is an answer to that? I mean, I'm not sure how to answer it sometimes, right?
But this is not a question that you are struggling with. I think when we were actually taking the sittings, exactly the same questions we used to ponder before the end of the sitting. We used to
Oh,
know that the sitting is now going to end in the next 2-3 minutes. Then you start testing in your mind what to say now after the meditation is over. So don't feel that you are alone in this thing. But I'll tell you, just give you a clue how to develop this vocabulary for meditation, how to actually go about describing the feelings or the observations. A very simple thing for you to start is I want you to go to the spiritual anatomy book, go through the chapter on chakras.
okay.
That's the first thing that you will do. Okay. Now you have understood how you are supposed to meditate. We have covered many finer points of meditation. Suppose you've got a good hang of how the meditation should be. Today we spoke about the need for awareness during the meditation. Because if you don't have awareness, you cannot observe the condition. One other myth I want to clear, that condition can descend only during meditation, is a very big myth. Condition can descend into the heart of the abhyasi at any point of time. Now, if you want to pick up the condition, you should be observant of the heart all the time. That is very, very important. I'll just give you a very simple example. Say the first
Observed at
point.
the heart end, sorry, observed at the heart end?
No, you have to observe the heart all the time.
Oh, all the time, okay.
Now, the thing is, I'll just give you an example. The first point, conditions at the first point. We say the conditions at the first point is that you will develop contentment, a feeling of contentment, a feeling of flexibility, a feeling of acceptance. Now, you just look at it. If the amount of desires that is there in your mind and heart is coming down, maybe you might experience an element of contentment. But the real condition of contentment actually manifests in your real life, day to day life. If after the meditation you get the whole gamut of your desires back in the same intensity, what's the point of feeling content at the end of meditation? That's of no use. If you really want to feel that contentment, it should manifest in your real life. Overall, in your real life, you should be able to feel that. I had a mad, passionate liking for cars. Now, after doing this meditation for 6 months, that intensity of that liking for the cars have now come down. I am more flexible in looking at different varieties of cars. I'm looking at more from a practical perspective rather than from a different perspective. So the perspective with which you actually look at the desires, the intensity of the desire, and the purpose behind the desire, all these things will change. They're all part of the contentment only. But so if you just look at desires as 100, and then if the desires come down to 50, then you are content. That is not the nature of meditation. That is not the kind of condition that we actually pass through. There are a lot of nuances to the condition, and that is what we are supposed to pick up. Okay, contentment is at least something felt. Now you tell me, how can you feel the condition of flexibility in meditation? Can you feel that you have become flexible in meditation? Nobody can feel.
Yeah.
Right? So if flexibility as a condition in first point is manifesting, it can only be felt outside the meditation, not during the meditation. Very similarly with flexibility. Okay. Now if you just read Daji's Spiritual Anatomy, he writes about when he mastered the third point. And it is not during meditation. Daj has gone to some concert with Chariji. It is during that third point movement occurs during that concert, not during meditation. So, if people have this notion that all the condition is supposed to manifest at the end of meditation only, that is not true. Many conditions descend to our heart at different phases of our life. And in fact, the thing is, many times it's outside the meditation. That is the reality of it. Okay? It's like saying, I will learn everything only in the classroom, and I will not learn anything outside the classroom. Do you think that makes any sense? Do we learn everything in the classroom? There are so many things that we learn outside the classroom. When we are studying at home, when we are doing our homework, when we are going to tuition, something we'll be doing. Or sometimes you are not doing anything, you're just kind of pondering on something, suddenly something clicks in your mind, and you feel now you are able to grasp it. That is how it is, the condition. Okay? So until unless we keep an eye on the heart all the time, we will be most of the time missing the condition. And second thing is, there are many sessions of meditation where actually meditation ends with lot of restlessness. You still feel restless at the end of the meditation. What are you going to do now? Are you going to do AIO on restlessness? Definitely not. Right? You will definitely not do AIO. That is common sense.
Yeah.
So there are many meditations where the session ends where the work is still incomplete. When the work is still incomplete, but the half an hour is over, the preceptor says that that's all. Work is incomplete. So what to do then? Don't do any AIO. So AIO also needs to be applied with logic, applied with a lot of sensitivity. Don't blindly apply AIO all the time. Now, the second point for you to ponder about in terms of looking at the conditions is to know what are all the conditions that manifest at each point. And that is where the spiritual anatomy will help you.
Okay.
So read first point and make a list of all the conditions that are there possible at first point. Do the same exercise for all the 13 points. Now, after having done this exercise, I would want you to then compare the conditions that is described in spiritual anatomy with what is written by Babuji in Towards Infinity. Okay. Now, there are some, I'll give you one experience. Even if somebody has not read the book, we have had many instances where the abhyasis describe the condition of a particular point verbatim as it is written in Towards Infinity. You actually get surprised by that. Are these fellows have not even touched the book. How can they repeat verbatim that this is their experience? The same words are used. And this has happened quite a few times. So now I don't feel surprised when somebody says like this. In other words, we need to know the characteristic experience at a particular chakra, at a particular point. Okay, like in medicine, for every illness, we talk about the drug of choice. So this is the drug of choice for this particular condition. That's what we talk about in medicine. Likewise, in every spiritual point, the chakra, there is one characteristic feature which is unmissable. If that is experienced by the Abhyasi, then you are 100% sure that the work is occurring there and this is what is happening with the work. So, the third thing I wanted to read is in the first two chapters of Towards Infinity, Babuji describes what is Gnana and what is a condition. I want you to get a glimpse of that. That will give you clarity. So these are the three homeworks for you. It might take 1 month, but it's a worthwhile homework for everyone who's listening. That's how you develop the vocabulary of the meditation. Because until you have few stop words that you can actually experience and actually say that this is what it is, you will find it very difficult to pick up the words. It's like until you have the alphabets known, you have to by heart the alphabets. There's no other go. Once you by heart the alphabets, then eventually those alphabets will come in handy for you to describe a particular thing. Likewise, some of the conditions in the words that we use to describe a particular condition, we need to develop that vocabulary. And I told you last time 4 things: awareness, absorption, observation, feeling, and example. 5 things you have to do. After every session of meditation, awareness, were you aware during the course of the session and throughout the session? Was the awareness varying? Did you feel lost during the course of the session? Second one, absorption. Were you fully absorbed during the session of meditation? Was your absorption also varying up and down? Thirdly, observation. Observation is things that you see. What you see inside when you keep your eyes closed, you can see colors, you can see patterns, you can see visuals, you can see some scenario, you can see some pictures of faces. So many things you can see. That they're all part of the observation. And the last one is feeling. It is in the feeling realm that you actually look at all the conditions in the different spiritual points. Other way of looking at the condition is what did I feel at the physical level? What did I feel at the mental level? What did I feel at the emotional level? And what did I feel at the spiritual level? This is another way of describing the condition. The conditions are related mainly to the spiritual level. The other 3 things we do observe because awareness is there across the board. But when we talk about the feelings, it is the spiritual conditions that we are talking about. So conditions are always related to the feeling that we have. Okay. And the feeling can come during the session of meditation or at the end of meditation. Sometimes you have sessions where the early part of the meditation, the person feels absolutely peaceful and calm in depth of meditation, fully absorbed. But as and when the next work starts, the consciousness starts getting cleaned, the samskara starts getting cleaned. What happens is the samskaras now starts coming and start bombarding the surface of the mind with lot of thoughts. So the person starts feeling disturbed in the second half of the meditation. That's entirely possible. You can have any sequence. So your job is to observe how the things are progressing through the course of the meditation and at the end of the meditation. If at the end of the meditation you are still feeling restless, you are not going to do AA. If at the end of the meditation you feel more calm and settled, that is when you actually look for your condition, pay attention to the condition, apply the AIOU. But remember, AIOU is not restricted to the end of the meditation. It can be done at any point of time because the condition can descend at any time. Okay. So this is an exercise that all of you need to do so that you can gradually develop the vocabulary of the meditation. How to describe the session of meditation. Okay. By
Brother,
doing it regularly, you actually grow.
brother,
Mahesh,
you mentioned about
one minute, Krishna Kumar, just wait. Let's finish with Maheshwar.
no.
Maheshwar,
Actually, I'm just noting down what you asked to read. So Gnana and one more thing which you said.
no, the first 2 chapters, Gnana and condition. Babuji described what is a condition.
Okay.
In the Towards Infinity, in the first 2 chapters, he
Towards infinite.
described
Okay.
what is
Okay.
Gnana, what is a condition.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Maheshwar, Maheshwar has disappeared, I think. He's come back. Madhuri?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, namaste, brother.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this point A, we meditate for experiencing super consciousness. No, is there any other point meditation for some other purpose also?
No. These are the only two specific points mentioned in relation to the superconsciousness, which is point A, meditation, and point B,
Okay,
cleaning. No, not in any other context. No. Okay.
right. Okay, thank you.
Madhuri, sister?
Yeah, brother, this is in continuation with other brother and sister questions. So I don't know, I may be going out of topic, but God has no mind and so no samskaras. But yet we have just said that he has three bodies, means he has subtle body, mind.
You have totally misunderstood the concept. We just now read in the slides that Brahman is not the ultimate reality. Brahman has three bodies. God does not have three bodies. The ultimate does not have three bodies. So don't be under the confusion. So we never said the center or the ultimate has three bodies. No. We said the individual has three bodies. Brahman has three bodies. And that was the homework given to the other sister to read and come back next session. So please remind me of the homework because I keep forgetting. In every session, I keep giving homework to somebody or other. And many times I forget who the homework and what homework I gave to anybody. Last session of Kannada also I given them some homework. So they are supposed to read and come. Okay?
So
Karthik, go ahead.
Yeah. So you are saying about liberation, na? Like after fifth point, why do they don't come back to this body and mind to cross those the other chakras, ego circles, or they can travel like they can continue the journey in other dimensions, or they have to come back to earth? That is the question.
Once you are liberated, you don't need to come back to earth. But you can choose to come back. Choosing to come back is different. Forced to come back is different. So once you are liberated, you can choose to come back, but there is no need for you to come back. There is no force to come back. Now that doesn't mean to say that you are not born with different set of instruments in different realms. You can be born in other realms with a different kind of a body, with a different kind of an apparatus that will still help you to progress spiritually. So it is just that the kind of physical body that we have here, this will not be there. That's all it is. That is what is liberation. Liberation is going beyond the realm of the physical body consciousness. This physical body on earth. That is what is liberation. That does not preclude you from having other kinds of bodies in other realms. You can have other kinds of bodies in other realms that will actually help you to progress spiritually from that realm. You will not come back to this earth. So you will not come back to see RCB match. That's all.
Okay, thank you, brother.
Karthik Swami.
Yeah, good evening, brother. Good evening, everybody. So, brother, what I'm supposed to understand right now from what sister said is like if you cross point 4, it is liberation and you're not coming back.
No. You got it wrong. You cross
Yeah,
point
please say
5,
that.
enter into point 6 and stabilize there. That is liberation.
Okay. So, brother, once it is, I don't know. And then if you come back to point 3, so that means you are liberated or?
We didn't get the question.
Hello?
Repeat the question.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yeah.
So, brother, what I mean to say is like if say there is variation, like you go to point 9 and you stay there for some time and then you come back to point 3. So that means you have crossed the point of 7, 8. So that means are you liberated?
See, once you are at a particular point and you have mastered a particular point to a certain extent, it's like very simple. You suppose you pass through, say, third standard, fourth standard. You got the minimum amount of marks that you have to pass through that particular standard. Now you go to fifth standard, sixth standard. Now, even if you go to fifth standard, sixth standard after passing the lower classes, you will still probably say one day come back and sit in the third standard because your teacher asked you to come and sit in the third standard.
Yes.
Now, that does not make you lose the fact that you have actually crossed these sections or these classes.
Okay. Yes.
So that's okay. So there is a minimum qualification that you are supposed to get at every chakra. Once you get that, you are able to move beyond. You
Yes.
might temporarily come down, but you will always have the option of going back again.
Okay. Okay.
So you will not
So
lose your condition just because you came down for 1 or 2 days. So in other words, just because you are in 6th standard, you are made to sit in 3rd standard for 1 or 2 days, that doesn't mean to say that you are going to permanently be in the 3rd standard now. You are not going to come back
correct.
again.
Yes,
Very
brother.
simple.
Now, if I'm in the 8th standard now, how do I maintain that 8th standard condition?
No, why do you want to maintain 8th standard? After 8th standard, you have to go to 9th standard.
Good point. So sorry for
Right.
this thing. Now I just want to ask that one question. You said homework is very important. What was those 3 homework things that we're supposed to do, brother?
That I think you need to watch the recording because I'm getting late for the another meeting. I'm already late by 12 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so sorry I'm disturbing you.
Just
That's
look
it.
at the
Thank you very
recording
much.
and you
Thank
should
you.
be
It
able to
was,
get the homework.
yeah,
Okay?
it was very kind of generous of you. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, thank you very much for all of you for your time. We will catch up again on Friday. Okay, thanks to Gidambi brother also for his patience listening and not interrupting anything.
Thanks,
Okay.
brother.
Kidambi brother is also one of the area coordinators. So some of you probably will be in touch with Kidambi brother in due course. Okay. Good night then. Have a nice sleep.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.